Today on The Pleasure of Food, we are going to skip over a lot of recipes, and I'm going to show you several different techniques. How to fill, how to crumb coat, and how to finish several different kinds of cakes. Pretty much everything we're doing here is a variation on recipes that you can find in The Joy of Cooking. A lemon cake, which is toward the front there, and you can see we've got some lemon curd decorating the top. The next butter cake is no citrus, but egg yolks and vanilla, and it is filled and finished with chocolate buttercream with a little sprinkling of grated white chocolate on top. Then we have two chocolate cakes. The first one, closest to you, is a mocha cake. It's got about 1/4 cup of hot coffee in it, and it is filled and finished with a coffee buttercream. And then closest to me is my favorite. This is a sour cream fudge cake with about twice the amount of unsweetened chocolate that The Joy of Cooking calls for. And instead of 1/4 cup of hot coffee, we have added 1/4 cup of hot vanilla. So I'll show you how to fill, how to crumb coat, and how to finish 4 different cakes today. And if you follow along with me, maybe you'll be inspired to try your own. And after we're done in the kitchen, we'll come on back out here, have a little champagne and coffee, and taste our handiwork. Meet me in the kitchen, I'll show you how it's done. Another thing here too to remember is that I've been doing this for almost 8 years, pretty much every day for the last 8 years. So yes, it does look easy, but I want to assure you that anyone can do this, and it is so satisfying. The only recipe we're really going to worry about today is I've always heard it called an Italian meringue. It's a way of making buttercream which is a lot lighter than, for instance, the buttercream we discussed when we made cookies. Got 1 3/4 cups of sugar and a scant teaspoon of cream of tartar, and I'm just going to whisk that in together so that the cream of tartar is blended with the sugar. And what we're going to need is about 1 3/4 cups of the egg whites. You can store them covered in your refrigerator. I would get rid of them after about a week if you don't use them. Otherwise, you can freeze them in a sealed container and they'll last forever. But don't quote me on that. Now we just want to incorporate the egg whites in with our sugar. Whisk. And you notice I'm doing this in a big aluminum bowl because we're basically going to be using this bowl as the top part of a double boiler, because we want to dissolve, melt the sugar into the egg whites. So here we go, onto the heat. And you just want to keep your eye on it. You don't have to be too paranoid about it. You definitely don't want it to cook. What you're going to notice as it gets hotter is that when you touch it, it's not going to feel granular at all. All of those crystals of sugar are going to be dissolved. It's going to be completely smooth, and it will be hot to the touch. It's important that it be hot. The egg whites and sugar have been over the double boiler for a couple of minutes now, maybe close to 5. And when you try this at home, you will notice that the texture of the egg whites is getting a lot more silky, a lot more liquidy. It was a little tougher when we started, and now it's getting kind of syrupy. So our egg whites have been on for just about 10 minutes, and I just checked the temperature of them with my instant read digital thermometer. And they're at about between 180 and 190 degrees, which is pretty darn hot. If there were yolks in here, they would have scrambled, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, so everything's hot. I've turned off the heat. You want to use a mitt because the rim of your bowl is almost certainly going to be too hot to touch. Putting that directly into our mixing bowl. We're going to put this on the mixer for about maybe 10, possibly as long as 15 minutes until it fluffs up. And it's going to be so loud that I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. We're going to soften this butter. It's about 1.5 pounds. And once we're all whipped and fluffy, we're going to incorporate the butter into the egg whites, and that will be the basis of our buttercream. We're going to flavor it in different ways. You may have noticed that this is an enormous amount of butter. It is 1.5 pounds. Just keep in mind that this is not a single serving. We're making enough buttercream to decorate a couple of different cakes here today, and each portion is only going to use a small amount of this butter, so don't be too terribly afraid. Beautifully fluffy. You want to make sure that they have this nice texture to them. They hold their shape. It's not pouring off of the whisk. And at this point, this is where we want to incorporate our butter. So I'm turning the mixer on to a much lower speed, and I'm going to add dollop by dollop bits of this butter. So here we are, all ready to go. Part of why you want to flavor your buttercreams, there are several different reasons. One is that they just taste good. The whole point of decorating a cake is to indicate from looking at it on the outside what's going to be on the inside. Now, we have that big batch of buttercream. We're going to make from it 3 different kinds of buttercreams. One is what we already started with, a nice vanilla flavored buttercream. We're going to make one that's a chocolate flavor, and we're going to make one that's a coffee flavor. And I have my little packets of instant coffee. You can buy the little jars, and don't be freaked out by the concept of instant coffee. It's actually perfect when you're working with buttercream to get that flavor in there. So